Well, have you ever asked the question, why were the children of Israel in Egypt in the first place? See, centuries before, the story goes that Joseph, Jacob's son, aka Israel, was sold as a slave there, but rose from a slave to second in command. And later, the rest of his family came to Egypt as honored guests during a famine. Then fast forward 200 plus years later, the Israelites in the same land are in slavery. Hashtag inner Moses. So how did they go from being honored by the pharaohs to being slaves of the pharaohs? Fun fact numero uno. Most historians agree that during the time of Joseph, Egypt was ruled by a black but not Hamitic power, a Semitic people who conquered Egypt, known as the Hyksos. The Hyksos were called the Shepherd Kings. Remember, Hebrews or Israelites are Semitic pastoral people. Now, if you take the Hyksos into account, we might just see how Israel became oppressed in the land of the Egyptians during the time of Moses, when the Nubian pharaohs returned to power. And this might just explain Genesis 46, 33 through 34. And it shall come to pass that when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, what is your occupation? That you shall say, the servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even to now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians. So during the reign of the shepherd kings, the native Egyptians hated the Hyksos so much that even the Israelites, who were herdsmen, chose to live in Lower Egypt in Goshen, away from the natives. For that reason, Goshen, or Lower Egypt, was known as the pastoral region. So when the natives took back control of Egypt from the Hyksos, they put the Hebrews into bondage. So why is that important? To hit Vonley's point again, let me introduce you to a black Semitic pastoral African people, shepherd kings, called the Fulani. The following quote is from the Fulani, a nomadic tribe in Nigeria, from Oxford University Press. Mr. Delafos, who studies West African languages, which gives special weight to his opinions, holds the view that the Fulani may have owed their origin to the downfall of the Hyksos, or shepherd kings, who were driven from Egypt about the year 1630 BC. Lady Lagarde, British journalist and writer, who first coined the term Nigeria, speaking in regard to the Fulani, descending from the Hyksos of ancient Egypt, spoke of the great similarities observed by her husband that exist between the Wahuma of East Africa and the Fulani of the Western Sudan. Of both races, Fulani and Wahuma alike, it can at least be said that they so far support the theory of a common origin in the Hyksos as to have maintained throughout all their history in the diverse countries in which they are to be found the ancient position of shepherd kings. This quote is from The Affairs of West Africa by Edmund Dene Morrow. For full, the Fulani dialect cannot as yet be definitely classified among the languages, but so far as our knowledge extends, it has Semitic antecedents. Semitic antecedents. When we endeavor to find some other links connecting the Fulani to the East, several circumstances arrest our attention. The first is provided in the passage of Hanno's Periplus. The second, in the invasion of Lower Egypt by the Hyksos. The third, in the Hebraic tendencies and particular familiarity with Hebrew legends observed among the Fulani. The fourth, in an attachment to the cattle, so remarkable as to suggest a far-off bull vine worship. Yes, calf worship. Calf worship. Ring a bell? Remember that Israel crossed the Red Sea and sinned against the Most High by worshiping a golden calf? So when we look at all this, it connects with the reported account. See, not only were the high schools run out of Egypt, but also the Nubian Kemetic natives of Egypt by successive conquering nations via the Assyrians, the Greeks, the Romans, and finally the Arabs. Translation: the Arabs living in Egypt are actually Arabs, not Egyptians mixed into oblivion. Also, you may not be familiar with the story of Joseph in the Bible, but when Joseph's brothers came looking for him in Egypt, they couldn't distinguish him, an Israelite, from the other Egyptians. Moses was raised in Pharaoh's house and also couldn't be distinguished from other Egyptians. Yahushua, or Jesus, was hidden amongst the Egyptians. The Apostle Paul was mistaken for an Egyptian. Now, as we see the Nubian and Semitic rulers of Egypt, aka the modern day Fulani, the Wahuma, the peoples of the Sudan, etc., how could we swallow the narrative that Hebrews and Egyptians look like Charlton Heston? And you be the judge.